Welcome back to Pastor Plek's podcast. I am your host, Chris Plek. So grateful to be with you, recording live here from Austin, Texas. And with me in studio, of course, is the one and only, the lovely Mrs. Catie Sas, the mother of Ava.
Yes, that's all I do. Mother.
How was this morning?
Oh, just put out a lot of fires.
Okay.
It's fine. Yeah.
Is Ava alive?
She's alive.
Does
She's
she need
alive
therapy?
because the Holy Spirit gave me self-control.
Hey, way to go.
And we made it out alive. We did.
Way to go. That clearly the sanctification process is working in you. And also with us is none other than Super Trooper Nicole Troup. How are you, Nicole?
Hey, I'm good. I love that you call me Super Trooper every time.
Well, that is your name. It's like Catie is Ava's mom, and you are Super Trooper, and that works out.
So great.
And the reason we're all here this morning, well, I guess there's more than one reason, but we've got Larry O'Donnell with us in studio. We are so grateful to have you, former president and chief operating officer of Waste Management and employee number one of Rockwater, which is pretty fun. And now pretty much a worldwide traveling evangelist and itinerant speaker and like business coach, spiritual mentor, pretty much man, myth, and legend everywhere you go. Larry, welcome.
So is that how you make money now?
Yeah, how do you not be poor now?
Well, because now that you're not the
have no
president
income.
of something.
You have no income?
No income at all.
So you just planned for retirement. And you're just...
Wait,
God has taken care
you live
of
on
me.
Social
Okay,
Security?
there you go.
God has taken care of me.
Okay, solid.
So, okay,
I have
Catie,
no new source of income.
this is why we love Catie.
It's a good question.
It is a great question. So he ran not a $1 billion company, like probably like a $13 billion company. Is that right?
Multi-billion dollar company.
So do you
That's
still
what
get
I'm
revenue from that?
saying. He doesn't work for them
But,
anymore.
well, so like, I just don't,
So
is your
They,
house paid
they
for?
do not pay. They do not pay me.
I'm just trying to understand the logistics of life.
They do not pay me.
Okay.
I do not receive
you
a
get-
salary from
do you get-
anybody.
Do you get paid for like
But
speaking
I
and stuff
save
like
some
that?
money
He
along the
pays-
way
yeah, that's good.
so that now I can do ministry.
He pays
So
us
I
to do
live
ministry.
on my savings.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I live on the savings that God gave me.
That's really cool.
And I'm trusting that God will,
It won't run out, hopefully.
that it
I
won't
really
run out.
wasn't trying to ask a dumb question. I
It
just
will
was
not run
curious
out. I
because
pray
if you
God-
don't have a job now, then how do you?
Yeah.
I just
I
don't
have a
know.
job.
He definitely has a job.
I have a job. I
Well, no, I saw
work
your
in,
testifies that he has
I
a
work
job.
in ministry every day.
Yep.
So I have a job, and
I feel like
and
we're
God provides. I'll just put it that way.
There you go.
off to a great start, guys.
This is kind
It's
of
okay,
like
Catie. Chris is being weird.
Catie also asked Corey Morrow. All right, this is for fun. So Corey Morrow came on the show. Mm-hmm. And Catie, no, I'm not making this up. This is what she asked Corey. So Texas country, is that kind of where you go when you don't make it in real country? She did ask that.
Texas country is where you go when you don't want to go
That's right.
to real country.
That's right. Yeah.
Except
And-
this whole real country
It,
thing.
except it,
Oh.
it really is
I have
country.
mainstream
Nashville
country.
country.
Nashville
Yeah.
country.
Nashville country.
Anyway, that was okay. So I appreciate you asking that question, Catie. That's why you're here. That is fun. All right. So, but now you have. But let's talk about like your career, because you weren't just you didn't just like one day end up being the chief operating officer of Waste Management. You started out as a. Let's just go back to like you're a construction guy back when you're like 16.
Well, I started before they had child labor laws. I started in second grade.
What?
I started in construction.
Back when dinosaurs roamed.
I swept floors, I unloaded rail cars, and I stocked shelves in our lumber yard and hardware store.
Was this off the books, or did you get like an actual paycheck back then?
I actually got a paycheck.
Oh, that's great.
As I recall, I want to say it was like maybe $1.10 an hour or something along those lines.
Wow.
Actually, it might have been 65 cents an hour.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but those
40
numbers
hours
are
a week, or what are we
no,
talking
no, no. Vacations. Well, everybody else went on vacation all during the summers and Christmas holidays and
That was your primary
Thanksgiving
work time.
holidays or whatever. If there were holidays and we weren't taking a family vacation,
Right.
then I was working.
So
Wow.
kind
And
of
I
ingrained in
progressed
you.
from that.
Yeah, is work ethic.
I worked as a framing carpenter, worked as a plumber, worked as a electrician, progressed a little bit from there, started working with heavy equipment. Then I even graduated and began running crews.
Wow.
That was
How old were
in
you when you were running a high school?
high school.
When you were running construction crews?
Correct.
When you said, because I don't think people wrap their head. It's like you as like a 17, 18-year-old kid.
Correct.
Telling like 35-year-old crusty dudes what to
Or
do.
older.
Or
I really wasn't telling them what to do as much as they knew what to do.
you were managing.
As much as, making sure they knew where to go, what they needed, what supplies they needed on the job, just arrange,
I think your dad taught you something really cool here. And
He did.
Tell me the lesson one more time about leadership that your dad gave you at this point.
So he told me that my job was to ask two very important questions. First, what gets in the way or what causes the frontline workers to be frustrated? What was getting in the way of them doing their best job every day, the best job they could do, and then fix it. And then the second question is, what are their suggestions into making our, at the time, homes, but our products, services, whatever, for our customers better? Because they would know, they're on the front line, they're doing the tough jobs each and every day, and by addressing those issues, you would create an environment that they wanted to be
Yeah.
at. They
How-
trusted us, and they showed up every day, delighted to be there.
So how often would you ask that question, or was it you had enough of a relationship with them that they'd be grumbling about something like, and you were like, oh wait, so if I remove this obstacle, your life would be better? Is that
Yeah,
kinda
it
how-
was both. It was spending time with them, so you'd find out some of those
Right.
things. But then there would always be something new that would come up, because it'd be a different job somewhere different, and there would be something there that was causing frustration.
Okay, so you
I ask that quite often.
Okay, and so now you graduate. While you were in college, did you go back and run crews in the summer, or what?
Yes.
Okay.
I continued to work there through college as I was going through engineering. And then I even worked there a little bit while I was going to law school.
When you had Larry, your son,
Yes.
did you have him also like kind of doing that same thing of working like through teenage years and that kind of stuff?
He started out doing some odd jobs, just more around the house type of thing.
Right.
But he was a big baseball player and ended up playing baseball.
All
He was
the
a
time.
baseball pitcher, and it was
All
the
consuming.
time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It was,
I mean,
regular
Team sports are
school
also
ball,
really
then there was, select ball, then there was summer teams, then he played on the Junior Olympics, and
Oh,
we
wow.
were traveling all over the country
Oh,
playing baseball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Was that while you were at Waste Management, or was that before Waste Management?
that was both at Baker Hughes and Waste Management.
Okay, so let's go through real quick. Baker Hughes. Talk to us what Baker Hughes is and what you did there.
Baker Hughes is the third largest oil and gas service company in the world. Now, before that, I practiced law for 10 years.
Right.
but
So
we-
were you a lawyer for Baker Hughes or no?
I started out being a lawyer for Baker Hughes,
Right.
but the CEO who became my mentor knew I was trying to get out of the practice of law.
Why did you go into the practice of law in the first place? So like, what, like, hey, go do law, or you're just like, I want to be well-rounded?
It's interesting. Even when I went to law school, I was trying to decide, should I go get my MBA or should I go to law school after engineering? Because engineering, they don't teach you anything but engineering. You don't learn anything about
so
business.
your undergrad, hold on, this is,
Yes.
I think people need to grasp just like the kind of person you are, because you're a meticulous person. You're a person who has vast knowledge. So civil engineering or mechanical
It
engineering?
was civil engineering, started out civil engineering, and then I specialized in what's called architectural engineering,
Yeah.
which is structural engineering.
And shameless plug, you graduated from the University of Texas.
I did. Yes, I
Oh my
did.
gosh.
Hook
You,
'em.
UT people, come on.
So
But, hey, we're in Austin, so I guess that's
I ended
okay.
up placing out of like about the first year of engineering.
That's
and-
really impressive.
And so
Oh, wow.
I took a lot of business courses
Oh,
that didn't
so
apply to my
hold on.
degree.
You go to UT,
Yes.
and you're like, let me just clep out of this. I'll take the test. They kind of give you credit for the class. What did you do in high school to get ready for that? Or it was just came to you? It's just like that
No,
was natural gifting.
I took classes that enabled me, for instance, calculus, physics, a lot of those things
But do you think
enabled me to place out of those things.
did working on construction crews where you could see kind of what you were engineering-wise, or just
That
simple
helped
math?
me in probably some of the later courses
Right.
where you're actually designing structures and what
Right.
have you. Yeah, at
But for
least.
your basic strength and materials class,
Well, the first year is all just basic math and physics and
Right.
that
Yeah.
type of stuff. And I was able to,
and so that stuff just
chemistry and some things like that, I was able to
just kind of
take
move on.
test and.
Okay, so
But
then
they're
you,
not easy classes. Like
No,
those are the weed
Well, it
out
is UT,
classes
I
at
mean,
UT.
they-
what was great was that
They're, like,
that enabled
unnecessarily
me to
hard.
then take a whole lot of business courses that didn't count towards my degree.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get maybe a hunger or maybe a taste of business.
Yes, and then I was going to eat. My goal at that time, I actually, in college, I thought about going to seminary, but if
At
I
that
didn't
point,
go
were
to
you gonna
seminary,
go Catholic seminary at that point, or were you?
no,
Okay.
I was going to go to Dallas Theological
Okay, even
Seminary.
then?
Yes,
Okay, all right,
Yes.
that's great.
and so as I knew I needed more than just my engineering degree
Right.
because my
Yeah.
goal at that point was to have my own engineering firm, engineering and construction firm. That's what I wanted to do eventually.
Oh, okay.
And so I knew I needed more than just engineering. That's why I took all these business courses. And then somebody said, you already took all these business courses. Have you thought about going to law school? Because engineers get sued all the time. And I said, that's probably a good idea too to at least think about. So I went and took the LSAT and I did
course.
really well on that. And I decided, which was, I think it was flawed thinking, but since I had taken so many business courses, I didn't really know much about law, so I decided to go to law school. But
Okay.
my intent when I started law school was to go back into business.
Okay. Wow.
I
mean,
did not plan on practicing law after
10
law
years.
school, and I ended up practicing for 10 years.
So this is wild to me. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
like you're
It's
God-
not a normal
No, my-
trajectory.
my
Most people
career-
who go into law start in history or rhetoric or something, and then they go they know they're going to law school before they have even started their undergrad. And
Yeah.
you went and got an engineering degree first.
and you
And
so
some of my professors at UT, because I had to get recommendations from them to
Right.
apply to even business school and law school, and they didn't want me to do that. They wanted me to
Right.
go get a master's in engineering.
Exactly. Or get
And-
some industry experience or
Yes.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
and you became a lawyer. Okay, so you're a lawyer at Baker Hughes, which is primarily oil and gas.
Yeah, oil and gas services. Yeah.
Oh, so what does
And
that mean?
That means they help the oil and gas companies actually
Get-
get the oil out of the ground,
Okay.
oil and gas out of the
So
ground.
we're talking roughnecking type stuff. Yes.
Yeah,
But obviously, you're not as a lawyer. You're not doing that.
They,
but I mean,
they supply the equipment
Mm-hmm.
and the tools and the things that are needed to get the oil out
so
of
as
the
a
ground.
lawyer, what did you do for them? Were you making sure they
Well,
didn't get sued, or you're,
because my mentor, who was the CEO, knew I was trying to get into business. I was doing things. Yeah, I was doing some legal things. I was general counsel of the entire worldwide legal department.
hold on. For Baker Hughes, which is not a small company.
No, it's a Fortune 500
Oh,
company.
so as Baker Hughes, you
Operations
are
around the world.
so you were how old were you when you were responsible for all that?
Pretty young.
Yeah, that's like, hey, rookie, go for it. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Or you were just that good. I mean, I know
No,
Sometimes
you're
it just
probably
happens.
I think God, I'm telling you, God moved me around.
Yeah.
That
And
is
if you look at my
wild.
career, every 10 years, I had a whole new reinvention of a career.
So
Yeah.
okay.
So it's very unusual.
Jeez. All right. So you're a lawyer for Baker Hughes. Then you transition from being a lawyer for Baker Hughes to be in
I still was doing that, but I was primarily doing business transactions around the world.
Got it.
I spent more of my time doing things outside the U.S. than in the U.S.
Okay.
Wow.
So
While I
at this
was at
time,
Baker
where
Hughes.
was your faith? I feel like, because I always assumed it was later, but
No.
it was right then.
My faith began in 7th grade
And
in Dripping Springs, Texas, at a Protestant youth group retreat.
and so from that point forward,
I was
you were
Catholic prior to that.
right. So at that, but even then, you still went to Catholic church, I'm assuming.
I continued to go to Catholic church after that. But as I did, there were many times I would sit there and go, what they're saying up there is not biblical.
Right. And when you were at UT, where did you go?
Catholic church.
Okay, so you hung in there.
I went to some other churches, but for whatever reason, I just felt comfortable
Yeah.
in terms of my worship part
Right.
of worshiping at the Catholic Church, even though I didn't agree with a lot of their theology.
Fascinating.
Wow.
But at
Fascinating.
that time, I just figured, every church is going to be flawed.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm comfortable with this. I've been here all my life, and
So at what point did you leave the Catholic church to, I guess it was the Methodist church at some point, right?
yes, that was interesting how that came about. I don't know if your listeners know about my daughter's situation, but
No,
Yes.
This might take us to a point. Well, I think
Yeah.
describing it is okay.
Let's
Yeah.
get to the nitty gritty
should I
of
just
this
give
interview.
it a simple thing? Okay,
Let's,
I'm ready.
because I'm like, we've been talking about his jobs for like 20 minutes,
This is
and
so, I know that I love you, Katie. This is why.
I'm like,
Yeah. This is.
I think it's kind of boring too.
Yeah, okay.
yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, you're really smart. and
No.
You had a bunch of jobs.
No,
And you went to college for a long time.
I'm smart
like,
enough to
okay.
know that I always
Cool.
hired really smart people
Yeah.
There you
on
go.
my
So
team.
I feel like
Tell
a
us what you think,
point
Katie.
in your faith that
Yeah.
really shook you was probably when your daughter
Correct.
got hurt.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Let's walk us through that. So, and where were you working at that point? Because I care about those kind of things. That's fascinating to me.
At that point, I was practicing law.
Okay. So you're at Baker Hughes
Oh,
doing
did
law.
you want to sue the doctor?
We talked about that, and as we spent more time sort of understanding what all that was involved, and we actually started that, but it put so much stress on Dare that we just said, let's forget about this.
Okay.
So
well, hold on.
Ryan has already told me the story,
Yeah.
and I know
No, not
y'all
everybody.
already know. So tell us the story about
Okay.
your daughter and all that happened.
I'll do a short version. She was born totally normal. We got her home. She was uncomfortable after her feedings. My wife, Dare, mentioned that to her mom, and her mom said, "Don't you remember you were intolerant to lactose? Why don't you just put her on a soy formula and she'll be fine?" We did that. She was fine. We took Lindley, is my daughter, took her in for her 2-month checkup. And the pediatrician said, it's got to be what it is, but let's just make sure. I'm going to send you down for some tests down at the medical center in Houston. We got with a doctor who had never done these tests on a little 2-month-old infant. He used an adult instrument that blew a bunch of air into Lindley's stomach. She threw up, aspirated, was without oxygen for an extended period of time. They gave her a lot of drugs to try to revive her that caused damage to her kidney and her liver, and she had brain damage from the lack of oxygen, so she was a mess. After 4 months in intensive care, they said she's not going to make it. You might want to just take her home to die peacefully at home, which we did, and I made funeral arrangements, got a burial plot, and
this was your first.
this was our first, and she's 38 now, so
she survived.
She survived. She has lots and lots of medical problems. She's in intensive care on average of her life about every 4 years, like the end.
Yeah.
And somehow God gives her another life.
Wow. That's when you came and spoke at our men's night on Tuesday, like that particular part of your story struck me. Like the fact that doctors were like, your daughter's about to die, like you should just take her home, and then she's
Not dead.
She's 38 now.
A lot, yeah. She's 38 now. She's
Yep.
had a very long life. Admitted
Way longer
like-
than we ever
right,
could have
longer than you
imagined.
could have
Even
ever
imagined.
imagined.
Right.
Admittedly, like very complicated and not without struggle at all. But
Extreme.
like, what is her like? What is her heart like? And like, do you know like how does she view or how does she think of her life? Like,
This is the coolest thing.
yeah,
She has the greatest self-image. She thinks she's just fine, and I think she's right.
that's
And all the rest of
beautiful.
us
Wow,
are
that's
the ones that are
wild.
messed up.
Yeah,
And I think she's right about that too. She's my inspiration.
that's really.
Well,
And-
how
and
many times a day does she call you?
She FaceTimes me. She lives at a facility just west of Houston for
Okay.
special needs folks.
yeah.
They live and work there. So she gets up and goes to work every day. She paints plates and pottery,
Oh,
cups
cool.
and glasses and bowls. She can't take her phone to work because then she wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But she'll FaceTime me.
I
This
understand that.
morning, I think she FaceTimed me 5 or 6 times before she left.
Yeah.
All
She
this
gets
morning?
home all this morning. She gets home at about 3:45, and then that's when it blows up. And she'll FaceTime me maybe 25, 30 more times this evening. And on
So-
the weekends, it approaches maybe 50, 60 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
But who else has a 38-year-old daughter that wants to talk to their dad that,
That
much?
much.
My mom is probably envious of you.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
how
I'm very blessed,
long-
and God used that disaster to totally change me.
Yeah.
And I'll cut to the chase. What God, the big story is, what I learned through that was when bad things happen, and I got very angry at God when that happened. I didn't lose my faith, but I was very angry. It was
Yeah.
like,
Can you explain that?
yeah.
What that means to be
Because you
angry?
had to grieve your
Well,
daughter's future.
this was beyond grief because
Yeah.
I was mad. I was telling God that you got the wrong guy.
Right.
This is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all I've done for you, God. Like he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Like I've led Bible studies since high school. I've poured into these people. I never miss church. I read my Bible. I'm giving him my spiritual resume as if he doesn't already know.
Right.
And I'm saying it's not fair. You're not treating me fair. I don't deserve this. You understand the mentality I had, which is totally flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's where I was. And it wasn't until one morning, that anger evolved
How long did that fester?
a long time.
Like we're talking like 6 months, 6 years.
I would say that deep anger was probably less than a year,
Okay.
because then it turned into guilt. And
What do you mean?
I started saying, there's no way that Lindley has sinned and caused this. It must have been me.
Right.
There's something I did at some point in my life that was so bad, and this is now the consequence of it.
Yeah.
I did something to cause this. What is it? And one morning, as I was reading my Bible, and I prayed, I said, God, I know you got the power. You can turn this around. I mean, I know you got the power. You can make this right.
Yeah.
And I was studying in my Bible, and I was in John, the Gospel of John, and I started reading chapter 9, and you all know the story. Jesus is walking with the disciples, and they come upon a blind man, and the disciples ask, who caused this man's blindness? Was it the sin of this man, or was it the sin of his parents? And I go, that's my question. That is my question. What's the answer?
Yeah.
And Jesus gives the answer. It was neither the sin of this man nor the sin of his parents. It was so, the works of God could be shown through this man.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just felt this weight lift off my heart. It was like, oh, I get it. You've got a different plan for Lindley than my plan, because I'm type A planner. I already had her being a cheerleader in high
Yeah.
school,
Yeah.
going to college, getting married. I already had grandkids, okay?
Yeah.
And this,
How old were you at this point when you're having this sort of revelation? You're reading John 9.
oh, now you're really going to tax my brain. It
Well,
would
she's
have been.
38, so how old are you now? Do we need to do the
Yeah,
math?
yeah, we do have to do the math.
Back in the day when engineering school.
I would have been under 30.
Okay, so you're like 28, 29.
That sounds about right.
And you're
How long had y'all been married?
We've
Real
been married
quick.
42 years.
No. Like at this point, how long?
4 years.
We had Lindley 4 years after we were married.
Okay.
So you're 28, 29 years old. You're wrestling through this. You're killing it at Baker Hughes.
No, I'm still practicing law right then.
As a lawyer.
Yeah.
Sorry. So you're still doing law. You're traveling a lot, I'm assuming, right?
At that point, no, my travel really started when I got to Baker Hughes.
Okay, got it. So
In waste
you're
management.
doing
so
law,
I'm doing
you're-
law stuff, mainly in Texas.
Yeah.
Houston area or?
Yeah, Houston area.
And so you're kind of on the pitch of career-wise, things about to take off, but then you've got this devastating sort of like crushing blow here. Talk to me about what it looked like for you to, God had to speak to you through his word. A lot of people don't have a regular time where God can speak to them at all. So back then, did you have a regular quiet time?
Yes.
Did you read your Bible? Like,
Yes.
talk to me about what that looked like for you.
I had a regular quiet time, usually in the mornings before work, sometimes at work. I'm an early guy, so
Yep.
I get to work really early, and most of the time do it there at my desk at
And
work.
so was it like, okay, was it Bible plan?
Yes.
Or how did you end up in John 9?
Lots. Then I was just studying the Gospel of John.
Okay.
So, I jump around. Sometimes I'll have something that I'm working through, or maybe I'm doing a deep study of a book of the Bible with commentaries, or
Right.
maybe, so.
Okay, so it just was like the Lord, you had your time.
I'm through John. I'm going through John in chapter 9. It's time for chapter 9 to
and,
flip the page.
Wow,
and
it's powerful.
there I am.
And that's how the Lord spoke to you.
And I
just in the
go,
regular.
oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, that.
It totally changed me, because before that, I had no empathy. I was a Christian. I thought I was living my life as a Christian.
Talk to me what empathy means for those who are just like.
Empathy means placing others ahead of myself, caring about others more than me, actually, trying to understand their point of view, listening. There's so many aspects to
How
it.
did because for you to get empathy like that, it must be like, oh, God sees me, or like how did that?
I saw that my focus was entirely on me.
Got it.
100% me.
Right.
And it wasn't about anybody else. And now, I always felt like, and this relates to some of the questions you were asking me earlier about my construction career, brief as it was,
Right.
but I always wanted to outwork everyone, because I never wanted to be viewed as the boss's son. And if I
understand that.
outworked it, like the worst thing you could call me is, oh, here comes the boss's son.
Yeah.
I wanted you to want me on your team because I outworked everybody.
Right.
And because of that work ethic that I don't know, it's just part of my character.
Right.
I still have it today. But back then it was really flawed, because I felt that I could outwork anybody.
Right.
And I saw tremendous success. I mean, even as I was a partner in our law firm at a very, very, very young age.
Hold on, you were a
Okay.
partner in the law firm.
Yes.
In your 20s.
Yes. And so, and I thought it was because I was so self-focused, which led to I was self-absorbed.
Right.
But, I thought I could outwork anybody and get wherever I wanted to get in life. So it was all about me and my plan. And God quickly showed me with Lindley's situation, it was out of my control. There wasn't one thing I could do. I could work as hard as I wanted. There wasn't anything I could do to fix this.
Yeah.
I had to trust God and trust God's plan, and it just totally changed my whole being, because I realized it wasn't about me. It was about everyone else.
All right,
I was wanting to be somebody rather than to be a servant of God.
All right, I'm going to pause you right there, because we're going to hit the rest of this in episode 2 of Larry O'Donnell. So, hey, listen, if you have any questions, you can text us in at 737-231-0605 or go to pastorplek.com. We would love to hear from you. And if you're like, man, I need to know this about Larry, feel free to text in, and we'll bring Larry back for more and more of these episodes, because he only lives like an hour away. Plus.
Hour and a half.
All right, so until next time, thanks for listening, and have an awesome week of worship.